Aloha, you are now entering behind the scenes and beyond the talks with TedX Honolulu. I'm your host, Justine Espiritu, and this is my co-host, Jennifer.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Killinger, and I'm co-hosting this series. And today we have the sustainability coordinator from some recent TedX Honolulu events, Samantha Hudson.
Thank you for joining us today, Sam.
Yeah, thank you for having me here.
So our series is based on TedX Honolulu, and we're going in depth into what events we have done and the kind of different departments that we incorporate along the way and how the volunteers come into play and different speakers. And so far we've had Genesis Leong, who is the license holder and kind of the head honcho of the whole spiel at this time. And we've also had Quincy, who is been taking on different roles throughout the years over the course of different events. And so now today, we're going in depth into the sustainability methods behind TEDx events.
Yeah, so Samantha initiated the sustainability team back in 2013. But let's go back a little farther. And one thing we've always kind of went over on these shows is how you got interested in TEDx and maybe the connection that you see with the TED Talks, maybe a talk that kind of spoke to you.
Sure. Well, so sustainability and the sustainability team was definitely a brainchild that I was able to work with other folks and really build into something great that Justine has taken over. But more recently, I've also been working with both the sponsorship team as well as the production team. So I've really been exposed to all areas of TEDx Honolulu and TEDx. But the inspiration for me, it really goes back to, actually, maybe a little ironically, but my daily bike rides, I used to spend just listening to TED Talks. So I would just queue up either the TED Radio Hour or particular TED Talks that really resonated with me. And yeah, I just found them as ways to sort of fuel me at the beginning of my day.
And so you would take these long bike rides and just kind of let the whole TED experience soak into your soul as you commuted?
Sure. I think that they're little nuggets to take with you during the day.
So the TED Radio, that's kind of the national or international platform? Is it a lot of the talks you listened to, was it celebrities or famous people in their field or average folks? What's kind of that diversity of the TED Talk speakers generally?
Sure. So it ran the entire spectrum. I would say that my favorite TED Talk, or the one that I've listened to certainly the most, has been the TED Talk by I'm really bad with names.
Okay, what was
He's a very famous Apple guy.
Oh, Steve Jobs.
So I like listening. I don't pay attention so much to namesakes, but it's the Steve Jobs, how to live before you die. And I listened to it so much that I don't remember the name of the guy.
Because it's the topic itself that really makes the impact on you. It's not necessarily that it's a celebrity that you're paying attention to. It's that the meat of it really gets you. I kind of like that you forgot this guy's name. So what was that talk about? Why did you like it so much?
So he goes through different chapters of his life, and he really talks about the value of your day-to-day interactions and frankly having purpose with what you do, which I think is quite a bit of what TED does for all of us.
Absolutely.
Like, it really grounds us in what we're here for, what we care about, and reminds us of, the things that really mean something to us day to day.
So then how were you introduced to TEDx?
So TEDx, it was really interesting. I was just interested in giving back to the community that has really nurtured me so much in terms of sustainability, but then also through my work, I've been able to interact and mentor a lot of younger students, like K-12 type of students. So I saw TEDx as an opportunity for me to, build on that.
were you approached by Genesis, or you just saw that an event was going on?
Genesis actually, they put a call out for volunteers. So that is initially how I was engaged. And I think I'm not sure how many folks responded. It was kind of in the early days of Genesis's license holdership. So it was also a transition period, I think, for TedX Honolulu. So I was able to interact with some of the former license holders. One of the guys who was also a brainchild of the TedX, not sustainability, but was actively integrating sustainability concepts in everything that TedX Honolulu was doing. So that was Matt Lynch, who I think is still involved in some ways or another, but certainly involved in the sustainability community in Hawaii. So it was sort of a call for volunteers, which I know Genesis has done multiple times.
Do you remember which avenue that was? Like, was it, I know I found through a meetup, meetup.com. I know there was also some other places. Do you remember where yours was?
I want to say that it was maybe Facebook.
Facebook or email. And one of the things I've talked about in other shows was that you got me involved. And it's exciting to see now. I think a lot of folks that are going to the events themselves, we have more of a presence, have more events going on, and that spreading the word about TEDx is getting folks interested. And they see how much the volunteers get out of it. They see how much the speakers get out of it. And it's exciting to see that they want to take this as an opportunity. I mean, like you're talking about with the talk, this idea of having purpose and living and kind of like being involved in things is, I think it's a great opportunity that we have here at TEDx.
Yeah.
So you got involved before the 2013 event?
Yep.
And so which event, that was the Cultivating Community event, was the main one? Or there was the little...
There were several salons leading up to the Cultivating Community event, and the first salon that I actually worked on, Justine, was helping with all the sustainability stuff, and you really championed it to an extent, although I had to get up on stage and give a whole discussion about the purpose of our sustainability team and the vision.
Yeah, and one thing we were just talking about briefly is the fact I didn't realize when you started the sustainability team that you had only recently joined TEDx. I thought it was maybe something you were just kind of a volunteer for a while, just kind of like following orders and seeing what everyone else was doing, but you just completely initiated this whole other team like as soon as you got there, which is great. And it must have been awesome having Matt Lynch there as kind of like a influence for you, and then but for you to take that to the next step and see, how can we really institutionalize this or really integrate this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at the time it was, there was so much happening and so much that had to be done to get ready for the big Cultivating Community event. And so it was great to have the salon events as sort of like intermediaries or sort of touch points along the way where we got to practice and sort of try out.
Does this work?
Yeah,
is this
exactly.
gonna work well with this?
Yeah, and I remember for disruptive leadership at Fresh Cafe, the smaller salon, we kind of just covered the basics of like, okay, let's make sure we have enough recycling bins, let's make sure they're labeled. I think we had the program projected and, make sure we have a box for the programs, but kind of our first big initiative was doing bike valet and trying that, and it's just really funny to think about now. I think we had like 6 bikes, and maybe 2 of them were ours.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what was
we were just like
mine?
cutting stuff up, like, oh, how does this work? Like, not knowing really what to do, but we're like, this is important, and we're gonna figure it out. And it was super fun to do that together.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you guys met through this, or you brought her, or you met before this? How did you
we met before through work, and I had just started this position with Bike Share, and so Sam was like, oh, Justine, you should just do this one little bike part with me.
Little
did
tiny
I know, she was reeling me in. She's like, I'm gonna make this team, and you're gonna do it all.
It built on your passion.
No, it was great. I mean, that's one thing too I've noticed. I'm all about peer pressure, and people need to be not that they need to be told, but I just feel like it's a big confidence booster when people see that other people believe in them and that they can take initiative
believes in you.
and start starts things. And that's what's been great too about a person like Genesis, who's been leading TEDx, is she's just totally has that aura about her and makes people feel comfortable. And I think TEDx Honolulu is that great platform for that, for everybody.
Yeah, it's definitely empowering if you have something that you're passionate about. TEDx, Honolulu, the volunteering element of it. What I said, I think my favorite part about volunteering is it's where the magic happens. But it really is. It's where you have these ideas, you have these passions that you might want to fulfill, and you can do them. You have the space to do them and to then build into a really amazing and inspiring event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you do any interaction, because there are so many TEDx groups throughout the U.S. and international, right?
Everywhere.
Did you do any interacting? I'm not really sure how. I've tried to do a little research of if other ones have sustainability teams or how institutionalized that is within TED Talks. I'm interested to see how we kind of compare to the other TEDx.
So I did quite a bit of research.
Okay.
And actually for most of the other TEDx's, it's similarly grassroots. So it's similarly folks within the specific communities that are coming up with elements of sustainability that really resonate or are things that they can get behind, and then executing them. So I think that as far as I've been able to tell, TEDx Honolulu has really, I guess, stood up sustainability similarly to other TEDx's.
Cool.
Yeah. But I mean, we're obviously better than.
Way better.
But I mean, that's the great thing too, is to have that network and be able to learn from them and see. I should get more in touch with them or see what other things people are doing.
So you didn't have to start absolutely from scratch. Did you have something else to go by, or?
So actually, what I didn't research other TEDx sustainability teams until well into the sustainability team, and it was per recommendation of Genesis and Matt. Try and reach out to those other TEDx sustainability groups, but I never actually spoke with any of them. But what I ended up relying on was really the DBET green event certification, and that lined up really well with what I was doing at Kamehameha Schools through my work. We were having Sustainability Council events, and so we wanted to also certify those as events. And so I saw this checklist as an opportunity to then maybe translate it to TEDx Honolulu.
So you were able to integrate what you were doing for work,
exactly,
your passion, and then bring it all to TEDx and kind of have a platform and people to help to make it happen. And I know we're going to go a little bit further in depth with the checklist and a little bit more of your personal work that you did at Kamehameha Schools in one of our next segments.
So let's just take a quick break, and then we'll get into some of those specifics with the checklist and then some of the accomplishments we've had.
Hi, I'm your host on ThinkTech Asia, Bill Sharp. I look forward to you joining us each Monday between 4 and 5 o'clock when we film right here in our studio in downtown Honolulu. The show, ThinkTech Asia, focuses on contemporary events in Asia. And by Asia, we mean anything from Hawaii, south to Australia and New Zealand, west to Pakistan, and as far north as the Russian Far East. Clearly, this is one of the most economically dynamic centers of the world, and we bring you up to date on what's going on in a whole host of countries in this very vital region. We look forward to seeing you. Aloha.
This is Alice Lee Hagan, host of ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. My show here at ThinkTech Hawaii is every Thursday from 3 to 4 in the afternoon. I bring in interesting guests from Hawaii, the mainland, and hopefully international guests in the future. Do join us on Thursday from 3 to 4 p.m. ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. Aloha.
I'm glad that I'm here with you guys.
Welcome back to Behind the Scenes and Beyond the Talk with TEDx Honolulu. I'm Jennifer Killinger, one of your hosts for today, and we have Samantha Hudson with us. She is the Sustainability Coordinator. Our other host,
Justine Espiritu.
Check us
very
out
much.
at, yes, thank you. Check us out on ThinkTech Hawaii, or ThinkTech High on Twitter. If you tweet us now, we can actually answer your questions live.
So we're going to go a little more in depth into the checklist we kind of use as the background to kind of come up with our initiatives. And again, the sustainability team was first introduced in 2013 with the event Disruptive Leadership at Fresh Cafe. And I want to bring up, to me, it's like this monumental moment. So we do have a photo of Sam on stage, kind of doing her first announcement of just letting folks know that TEDx really wants to be conscious of the way we put on our events and yeah, trying to institutionalize that a little bit.
And the giant red X.
And there's Matt Lynch in the background of that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
what was this
and
event
Genesis.
like? How was it for you? Do you remember that moment?
I remember that moment. I remember being a little bit nervous. I actually ran to the stage from our bike valet area. So yeah, it was an inspiring time though to actually be in front of leaders in the Hawaii community. I mean, at all TEDx events, we have leaders within the Hawaii community. However, this event in particular was focused on disruptive leadership. So there were folks that had stories to share and really touching stories, which is one of the things that I love about TEDx. And so to be able to share the stage with them was, yeah, I mean, it was fantastic.
Which is
Yeah.
a great thing that I just bring it up all the time, but that's the unique thing too about TEDx is that not only are we featuring these speakers, but we like to feature the volunteers as well and, share the stage. It's
Yep.
not this like, oh, the speakers are these untouchable people that are over here, all the lowly volunteers over
Absolutely.
here. It's a very,
Absolutely.
community thing that we're just trying to highlight all these amazing people and ideas here in Honolulu, which is really exciting.
Yeah. I mean, even so, the most recent event, I was able to help with the production team, which was a little bit different from sustainability, which Justine has taken the lead on. But as part of the production team, I was backstage and able to really be interacting with the speakers on the spot at that moment when they were about to walk onto stage. And so it is really an amazing opportunity that volunteers from TEDx or with TEDx Honolulu have to be able to be one-on-one and really close with folks.
So you started out with sustainability, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't quite anything just yet. And then we'll go into that in a little more in depth. But then your next role, was it, did you do something between sustainability and then when you were behind the stage area? Or how did your progression go?
My progression was, and that's where the Steve Jobs TED Talk comes in. So my progression, I started with the sustainability team, and then over the past 2 years, I've been involved in different aspects. One of the best things about the last 2 years has really been watching Justine, you grow as the leader of the sustainability team. And it's really been so rewarding, and I can imagine that that's like sentiment that Genesis also shares when she sees people taking the lead for different teams. And so I've moonlighted, I guess you would say, on the partnership team and then also the production team. But really, I think my roots come back to the sustainability team and where we started with the Department of Business and Economic Development and Tourism, the DBET checklist of sort of being a grounding point for how we shape sustainability.
Yeah.
And
Let's go right to that point. Let's go
Sure.
there. How did it start? Because it turned into something amazing, but it started out as a fresh, clean slate.
Yeah. So I think that the DBET checklist is really exactly that. It's a starting framework.
So that includes waste reduction, transportation, catering, energy and water efficiency, and pollution prevention. So here's the catering checklist we have up right here, just some kind of things. It's interesting to see how these categories fit into events.
And then we have the certain areas we've got checked that we actually were able to perform during this event. So for catering, you know, it has to do with the donation of extra food and having vegetarian and vegan options that help with the carbon footprint, because meat requires much more input of energy.
Yeah.
So things like that that you might not think about with a regular event, that when you throw an event, you're like, okay, we just need to feed people, and you just get whatever you can. But this, we actually put a lot of thought and effort into making sure that we meet these. Do you remember any of these in particular that was either a challenge or something that was just significant?
So I think that the way that we started the sustainability team was more so looking at the low-hanging fruit, what you would call,
the easy stuff. How can we...
easy, but low-hanging fruit is me. But sure, the things that we had a set venue that we had to work with, and we know that Fresh Cafe does fantastic things, and actually they helped us to meet many of the checklist items just by virtue of their existing operations. So that was fantastic. But then we also had to think about the things that we could mobilize fairly quickly. I think that we had maybe a month to plan the sustainability elements of that first salon. And I think that the checklist itself is so helpful because it's diverse. It allows you that flexibility to meet the elements of sustainability that you can do at certain events.
Right. Instead of having to meet like 10 points in each category, it could, what I realized for ours, like you said, we don't get to choose the venue. So some of that stuff, like the pollution of like their cleaning supplies or the lighting stuff, we don't have so much control over. What I noticed was probably the waste and the catering and the transportation. And when you bring up with the catering and you talk about a particular challenge, or it's great to see the progression even from, I guess that was 2 years or like a year or so, what we've been able, we started where it was like, okay, we only have a month, we gotta like figure this out. And now with this last event, it's like we have this track record, we can tackle larger things. And one of the things I feel was a great accomplishment with Paradigm Shift this past March was that we were able to make the catering 100% vegan. And, on this checklist, it's just like, have some vegetarian options, but we really wanted to go above and beyond, especially in the theme of Paradigm Shift. We really wanted to
show people that they can get full off of eating something that has no meat.
Yeah, to definitely open their minds to outside of what they're used to.
Yeah, and that's actually, that's the beauty of the checklist, but then that's also the beauty of sustainability, that you can have your sort of like kipuka or pico areas that you're really focusing on, and that really resonate both with your values and with what you're able to implement in real life in your day-to-day kind of activities or at a TEDx event.
Yeah, and speaking of you talking about biking and listening to TEDx and biking, the Bike Valet, again, was our first little initiative. And that was also our main initiative for cultivating community at the Hawaii Theater, which is really exciting because this is when we took the opportunity to partner up with Hawaii Bicycling League and K-Vibe to set it up at the Hawaii Theater. If you want to show that photo.
And so is that part of the transportation checklist as well?
So that is included as part of the transportation checklist. And I think that...
Or it's actually, I think on the checklist, it is, it has a bike facility. But we kind of went above and beyond that of providing this service and this perk for bikers.
Right, because the valet, so for people that don't know what that is, can you give a brief description? I guess that's your brainchild.
So the valet is, we kind of try to have it set up closer to the entrance so they don't have to worry about parking. They can go right up to the door. They just leave their bike with the K-Vibe volunteers. They get a ticket. They don't have to worry about locking it up. It's super close. It's right there.
With security.
With security, yes.
And I actually did use the Bike Valet myself, so I can attest that it works, so thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. And it was great to see from our first event of, our 2 bikes and maybe 4 others. Yeah. And now, we get like 50, 60 folks.
Yeah, and other aspects of the transportation in terms of sustainability, we've focused on that quite a bit with our events, especially with having the bike valets available, but also just an awareness in the interactive zone, having different activities that remind people about their own transportation and how they can reduce their carbon footprint, things like that. So
Exactly, and later in the series we'll get more in depth into what the interactive team is in the interactive area. That's another super unique element of TEDx. It's not just
and that it all
sitting at a
ties
conference.
to
It's people
sustainability.
coming, and we have a whole people with different booths and a way for the attendees to talk more with the speakers, organizations, and the volunteers. But beyond just having a booth set up, we like to make it more interactive. And so it's awesome to see, again, the progression of from the past, like even cultivating community to paradigm shift of how we made the building awareness even more interactive with some of our art projects that we had. We have people kind of posing with these different things that say how they their mode of transportation to the event, which is really fun, and everyone likes having their pictures taken. So
that was a great aspect. People really liked that. And so now to go back to the DBET checklist, let's talk about how we actually got certified and what that means. So we had our list, we checked off our things, and we sent it back to DBET and said, hey, we did it. And then what happened?
So then one of the DBET employees come to the event and just kind of verify it. Which you make it is this very simple, easy process, but we liked to make it really complicated because we want to get really creative and we want to go like above and beyond this one, and you should consider this extra thing we're doing over here. So there's a lot of back and forth of me like, can we get some credit for this awesome thing we did? And so again, that's fun, and I think some of the activities we've done, they can kind of learn and see how they can revise or evolve the event checklist, which is cool to think about.
Looks like we've got people trying to draw bikes here.
I like this.
So we had people being able to do their own art at the events?
That was at Cultivating Community. That was I had like pieces of cardboard, and I painted the mode, and then people could paint a quote or a saying and paint over it. So we tried to make it a little more classy this time with our like nicer things that we kind of provided. So I like painted this the night before, and then folks got to kind of like play around with it, and
just fun ways to remind people about sustainability and what we can do during our events to just kind of have some of that excitement and hype there.
Yeah, definitely.
So how many of our events have been certified through DBET's Green Checklist?
3. Disruptive Leadership, Cultivating Community, and this past one in March. The official ceremony hasn't happened for the last one, but we definitely accomplished a lot. So I know we'll be certified on that one.
Awesome. And so the first 2 that we already did get that recognition, so to speak, for. So I saw some pictures. It's kind of a big community thing, as well as, it's not just our TEDx Honolulu event that is doing this checklist. There's other events around the community that go for this as well, and then they have a ceremony and they bring them all together, and it's
yeah, because it's not just events, it's businesses, restaurants, and they're expanding it to hotels. So every other year, they have a ceremony where the governor is there to recognize all the folks that are participating in the green business event, or not just event, but the program. And so yeah, it's great to bring those folks together and see what they're all doing.
So what other accomplishments has the sustainability team been able to have? Is there other integration with other teams, with registration? And, we talked a little bit about the interactive team, but the partnership teams and all that. How does that tie together with sustainability?
Yeah, I think that we started off actually very much independent and realized that there was a need to integrate actually across the board, and that's not unusual for sustainability within any organization. So from corporate to grassroots, it's that sustainability can be across the board. And so Justine really took the lead and tying it all together.
I was just following Sam.
Yeah, yeah, just and really getting the registration team and whatnot to bring it all together.
So the registration team, let's talk about specifically what they did after the break.
Yeah, we'll take a quick break and go over that.
All right, go to thinktechhigh.com. ThinkTechHigh at Twitter, and tweet to us so we can answer any of your questions you might have.
Hi, aloha. My name is Chris Leatham, and I host a show called The Economy and You. The show plays every Wednesday at noon, and on my show, I bring on guests who are interested or working in the technology space. And so I'd like you to come and watch the show and learn with me about all the sort of exciting things that we're doing in Hawaii to build and grow our economy ecosystem. So I'd like to say aloha, and I look forward to seeing you on the show. Thank you.
Aloha, my name is Josh Green. I'm a senator from the Big Island in the ER position. Every other Tuesday, I get to host a show here on the ThinkTech program about healthcare. We call it Healthcare in Hawaii. It's really enjoyable for me to bring other healthcare leaders from around the state to talk about our pressing issues. Hawaii has long been the health state, but we need to keep up the momentum, the inertia, and with your help and with your participation, we can come and share all of the big issues that are pressing day to day. Thanks for joining us every Tuesday, alternating weeks from 2 to 2:45.
I know, I have a Twitter thing.
Aloha and welcome back to Behind the Scenes and Beyond the Talk with TEDx Honolulu. Tweet us at ThinkTech High and we can answer some questions for you. Make it interesting. So we just kind of wrapped up talking a little bit about how TEDx Honolulu integrated sustainability into all aspects of our events that we have and how it's also in other areas of the community. So Sam, that we have here with us today, is letting us know a little bit more about what happens in terms of community and sustainability. So thanks for coming on, Sam.
Yeah, sure. So I think that the sustainability team for TEDx Honolulu has done a really great job at leveraging certain partnerships, particularly Justine with the Sustainable Coastlines folks. And then also I know that Hayden and his TED Talk was actually sort of either inspired or integrated into TEDx Honolulu by you, Justine.
Yeah, Hayden was selected as a speaker, and this was just a prime example of really integrating the speakers with the whole event itself and what they're talking about in their idea. So Hayden
So we're talking about Hayden Atkins of Pedal Power Hawaii.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were able to generate electricity from the bikes, and so we were able to bring that on stage and have the entire talk generated from not only volunteers as part of the organization, but volunteers in the audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people were jumping up on the bike all show long. You know, there was never an empty seat on that. There were people lined up. We had a few chairs on the side so that they could get up on there and just pedal away. And it made people really proud to be a part of that and to actually be, they knew that they were powering the people that were speaking on stage at that moment. And it was an amazing thing.
Yeah, and it's really amazing to think about how many miles I've ridden on my bike, like even my daily commute, and how much energy I could have produced.
Yeah.
Actually, if the technology were there to actually connect it. So.
Yeah. It was great too, and they also had a bike in the interactive area where people were generating any of the electricity that was needed at the booths there, and there was tons of kids just super stoked. We have so many pictures of them, like really just having fun with it. And what Hayden talks about too is it just brings it in a different consciousness of energy use, which is really exciting. And so it also, incorporating pedal power into it, like you mentioned, we brought Sustainable Coastlines. We've been working with Hawaii Bicycling League and K-Vibe for the past couple of years, but it was great to have the capacity to bring Sustainable Coastlines to completely manage our waste and measure it and track it and dispose of it in the right and responsible way. And this is also another good example of how we kind of incorporated the sustainability team with the sponsorship team, because we were able to approach partners and say, this is an initiative that we would like to do. Would you like to partner with us to fund it? And I think it's a great way to give partners a very specific purpose, or seeing exactly, this is what I did. We Sustainable, I forget who sponsored the Sustainable Coastlines, but I do know HMSA sponsored our carpool lot that we had.
Oh, fantastic.
So just having those little things to give to the partners.
Yeah.
So what was that partnership like with Sustainable Coastlines? We had those receptacles for different things. So how did that work? Do you know the specifics behind it at all?
Well, the tent that you saw, it has the trash, the recycling, and the compost. So you just put it in the designated area, which can be a little hard. Which can be sometimes you don't know.
No,
That's
for
what,
people
if
that
you
haven't
saw,
recycled a lot.
Tristan helping Maddie J there because he didn't know where to put the banana peel. But no, so it is that. But you do realize that folks need that kind of guidance, and so they man those tents, and then at the end of the day they collect it and they weigh it, so then we can also track kind of our baseline to improve on, and then they dispose of it at a farm up on the North Shore, or the Kahi's own compost in his backyard. Take out the recycling and dispose of the trash, and they're everyone knows them as beach cleanups, which is great, and I'm glad we've been able to incorporate them into events and see how their organization evolves, and it's just exciting to see where, you wouldn't think maybe there's that connection between TedX and a bicycling nonprofit and a beach cleanup
crew.
But you can, if you get creative, then you can just make those connections, and it's super beneficial for everybody.
Yeah, and I think that what is almost more important about what you just mentioned is the whole baselining aspect of it, and I think that is one of the most important ways that TEDx Honolulu can show progress through all of our events, because undoubtedly we will continue to have hopefully inspiring and innovative TED Talk events. But I think baselining is something that so many organizations really struggle with, or just figuring out what to baseline or how to baseline it. So I think that's so fantastic that you were able to really pull in a community partner to make that happen. And that's gonna just hang with TED for the rest of the time we're here in Honolulu, so long as the sustainability team exists.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I don't think that's going away anytime soon.
Yeah.
So that baseline that you're talking about, how does collecting that information help us in the future? I can tell if we know how much we have, then what do we do next? How much waste we have, for example, with the garbage, how can we then reduce it?
Sure. So, it just allows us to establish other different mechanisms, or I don't know, we get more volunteers or have different ways to.
Yeah, there's still different ways to bring down the trash, even bring down the compost, making sure we have, it'd be great if we had zero compost because we had just the right amount of food for, everyone.
Yep.
And looking for maybe different things that are being thrown in the trash right now that, we need to find a recyclable option for that. We need to find a compostable option for that. Again, you got to be creative, like look at what you have and, this is what we did. How can we even improve on this even further?
So I know for Paradigm Shift, we were able to get reusable silverware. So we didn't have any disposable utensils in our trash, or even if it were compostable, we didn't even have that. So that's a step up from the baseline.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And too bad that we started the baseline really this year. Now we have a pretty high bar.
But it's not, and it's also not uncommon. Actually, a lot of organizations just start doing sustainability things, and it takes them a while to get to a point where they are either able to establish a baseline or even know what's worthy of tracking based on what their interests or passions are. So it's really not an unusual thing.
Good.
Yeah.
But then, so it's awesome that this is initiated by you, and then do you think it's like your background as a planner, or that kind of helped spark that, or your work?
Sure. So I studied urban and environmental planning in school, and I've been doing planning since then. But planning is so part and parcel with sustainability. Pretty much the objective or the philosophy of planning that I take is that we should be fully integrated with our natural systems. And I could probably take it deeper. I know a lot of people that take it deeper, but I think that the area that I really function in and work in is larger organizations. So right now I'm working with Kamehameha Schools, and so it's really working within our enterprise as a whole, within the operations, within the education side, within even our longer range planning, what sustainability means to us and what it can be within those realms. And so that's, yeah, one of the things that I love about sustainability. It just goes across the board.
Are you able to reference TEDx to KS? Like, hey KS, look what TEDx has done.
Well, yes, yeah. It's all transferable. And actually, Kamehameha Schools, we have students, TEDx Ed, actually at our Kapalama campus. So we do have our students involved in TEDx as well. So, yeah.
We could go on and talk about this forever, but unfortunately, our time is up today.
So thanks for hanging out with us today for another episode of Behind the Scenes and Beyond the Talk with TEDx Honolulu. Signing out, I'm Jennifer Killinger. We've got Justine Espiritu and Samantha Hudson. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.